And welcome to another Tuesday night edition of the Miles Offside podcast, where we talk a little bit of football and a whole lot of Ian Stimpson getting an embolism. My name is Chuck Bailey. I was about to say Oscar Puente then, and with me, as always, super producer Ian Stimpson and current guest host, Mr. Adam P. How are you, gentlemen?
When you said embolism, I thought you were going to say enema, and I was really confused.
Yeah, I just always do that on a podcast night, Adam.
Oh, his birthday.
Yeah. Usually the guys come round and administer an enema. It's just a little ritual we've got. It's your second time, so we'll save it till the third time. We'll save it.
Yep.
It's not your second time.
Switch
it's the second
on,
consecutive
fade up,
time.
pump in, pump out. Second consecutive enemas. Wow, what
There's an episode title, job done.
An image. Yeah. Well then, we can move on then. Welcome as ever. We are no Americans and 3 Brits. We talk a little bit of the Premier League, but definitely get distracted. And there's a hell of a lot to talk about this week, so let's just get started with our famous and definitely ill-described segment. Rapid fire news. Our top story this evening, we wanted to cover this as there has been a lot of news coverage at the moment. Very saddened by the events that have gone on after an earthquake in Turkey and Syria. We hope that everyone, all your loved ones and everyone connected to that area are okay and safe and well. We also just wanted to mention that there were team members of, I believe it's Matthiaspor team that were also trapped in the rubble. Some people may remember Christian Atsu, who played a couple of years ago for Newcastle and Everton. He's been recovered and taken off to hospital, so we wish him a recovery as well as everyone else to be found safe and well. But things aren't looking good. But we just wanted to bring that to the attention and send our love, and any support you can give and any donations to charities will be much appreciated. A bit of a sea change there is that, I was going to do an Oscar and buried lead on this, but Manchester City have been very, very naughty boys. And I don't know about you, but I'm incredibly shocked. The Premier League has decided to charge Man City with breaking financial rules after a 4-year investigation. As many as 4, which came after the Der Spiegel leaks a few years ago, where they said that Man City sponsoring themselves might have lied about the amount of money they were giving to themselves. Who knew? This has been fun and not at all surprising, hasn't it?
Yeah, I think the funny thing about this is, even before we were doing the podcast, obviously we did know each other before that, and I definitely remember talking to you guys and us being like, well, obviously they're going to massage the sponsorship thing. That's the obvious way to do it. And this seems to be exactly what they've been accused of among 100 or more charges.
It is sort of like the least surprising news story, because everyone sort of knew it was going on.
Yeah.
And like you say, Chuck, the leaks had come out a while ago.
Yeah.
And it feels like everyone forgot, but also sort of knew it was there. So when the sort of charges came out, it was like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that's not a surprise at all.
Well, I think the fact that when UEFA tried to do them over certain things, and they went to the court of arbitration for sport and managed to get that dismissed, I think a lot of people thought, oh, well, that's the end of that then, like without realising that the Premier League were also looking into all this stuff. And I mean, over 100 charges is not insubstantial. I mean, we all know how it works, that it's unlikely that anything ridiculous like the winding up of the club, nothing ridiculous is going to happen. But the Premier League do seem to not be happy about this, otherwise they wouldn't have pursued it. And so you're looking at so many charges, so many potential rule breaks, and
that's
it's just,
and that's only 100 breaches from 2009 to 2018.
Well, and one of the big differences here between the UEFA charge that you brought up, Ian, is the time limit on it. So I think there's a certain sort of time expiration where after a certain amount of years, UEFA's or there is something that means UEFA effectively can't investigate those accounts, whereas that isn't the case for the Premier League. So they can just go back and completely rake everything over the coals, and it sort of puts big questions over what the punishment is going to be. I think probably we're all thinking there'll be some sort of token financial
expulsion from the league. From the league.
Well, that's the thing. It's like you look at exactly what we were talking about a few weeks ago with Juventus, and even though they only got docked 9 points, it sort of does set a precedent for domestic regulations having a real punitive effect on clubs breaking sort of rules in this manner.
Yeah, and when points have been docked, certainly in this country before, it's always generally been for administration or like the other end of financial mismanagement, where it means that the club's going to go under. Whereas this is, I mean, there's so many charges relating to the sponsorship thing where they think that the owner's money has been going directly to the club rather than any genuine sponsorship attempt by any company. People's salaries being paid via subsidiary companies
fees.
And stuff like that. I mean, if there's a paper trail here, it sort of makes you wonder how they're going to, and there must be a paper trail, it makes you wonder how they're going to get out of it. Pep has said in the past that if the club has misled him about, because they've always denied these things, he said if the club has misled him, then he'll walk. I mean, it could get very messy. It probably won't. I don't know. There's just so much corruption everywhere, politically, football, financial world, everything. It just seems like nothing's going to happen.
To link to the politically part, the timing of this on the Premier League side is very convenient, considering there's a white paper going out about overall governance in football and that having to be taken outside of football's control. So it seems very convenient that they would bring this up immediately now, which is what City are kind of saying. Like, well, you're only potentially doing this to make a point. They might not be doing anything, which is why it potentially, everyone's saying about X team and Y team will get a title and there'll be asterisks on it and City will get, relegated and all this crap. Chances are they won't. I mean, it would be hilarious if they are, but, the Premier League is still investigating everything from 2018 onwards. So it isn't all of it. There's still plenty more to come. But
there's not been asterisks on Blackburn's Premier League win, on Chelsea's Premier League win, and I'm absolutely certain that everything wasn't 100% above board in all of those things. Financial fair play, fair enough, didn't exist then when, owners could just pump money in, I suppose. But, let's face it, it's not unusual, is it, for owners to find a way to finance clubs in ridiculous ways. It's just that this is maybe to the nth degree because we're talking about so many, well, probably billions of pounds if you look at what's gone through the books. It's pretty insane. It was, but I think Adam, you had it on the head there where it was like surprised, not surprised, and everyone acted surprised was surprising. But yeah.
And the good thing is that at least, all of this is going on off the pitch. At least on the pitch, their performances have been really good.
Pep is acting completely calmly as well, Doesn't look like he's about to throw a tantrum at any point.
No.
See, people were talking about this, but I didn't see. Didn't he go absolutely mad or something in a press conference?
Which one?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think at this point, he could just send any of his players off to Bayern because they've annoyed him at various points. He's sort of. I think there's I don't know. Are we getting into the football already? Because I don't want to jump the shark. But
is Cancelo the mole?
But
I saw on Twitter lots of people were saying, "Oh yeah, it was leaked from a former City employee," and then people got loads of screenshots of images of Cancelo looking unhappy at being substituted. It was, I think it's a little bit too 3D.
Come on,
there.
if any ex-employee stood to benefit the most from a City points deduction right now, it's Mikel Arteta.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not, and Gabriel Jesus and Alexander Zinchenko, like those three getting together. Yeah. There's your conspiracy theory, baby. Okay, go on then, Ian, if you want to dangerously veer back onto the comedy element.
All I was going to say is, Pep has always had the ability to make team selections or tactical selections more often in the Champions League that have made you go, huh, okay, he's, you know, the common thing is that he's trying to outthink himself. He's trying to beat himself by, you know, I want to see if I can win by doing this mad shit. But while, you know, for instance, you know, Lewis is clearly a very good player and will be a very, very good player, it just seemed very odd to put him in this. Is he left back? Is he double pivot? What's happening with this player specifically? And he didn't do very well. And that's not the first time he's not done very well in that Cancelo role that Cancelo always did very well at. And it's just, I don't know, he sort of made the attempt to control that middle of the park bit, and it just didn't work. I don't know. Pep confuses me, and I assume it's because he's working 20 levels above me. But sometimes you look at it and go, nah. I don't know what you're doing there, mate.
I think there's an element of if what happened with Cancelo is to be believed, that, you know, he was basically just being very disruptive, and you know what Pep's like, apparently. And you know what the setup there's like. They need everyone to be in the cult and can't disturb it, and also needs to, you know, recycle and shake up. You need to continually
such a good player, though. He's
such
a good player. It's sort of, oh man, it hurts me to think that he's not in the league anymore, because I used to love watching him play as a neutral. You know,
if City are about to be punished for kind of having sort of unreasonable financial sources, selling a player is at least one way they can now actually generate revenue and get some money in their club legitimately.
Well, it depends, because Bayern aren't going to offer him 70 million now. If they go, you know, it's going to be a lot less. But well, who knows?
Oh, what a buyer's market! Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll see who it is. But yeah, I think Rico Lewis definitely thrown in the deep end to be. You know, you can be a very, very good player as a fullback, but to do what Pep asks you to do in that system, it's completely different. So, but it seems harsh.
The kids, like, someone's so young, you know.
He's literally old enough. You're old enough to be his father, Ian. Like, come on now.
Yeah, and it not even be weird. Yeah.
And no, yeah. Jesus. How much time
it wouldn't
passed?
be like a teenage thing. Yeah, no, just a legitimate,
just a legitimate father figure.
Do
we?
Oh, that's put you off. It's got weird, isn't it?
Yeah, it's got weird. Just blowing past it. Do we? Man City as a whole. All those articles this week I saw from the Athletic. Has Erling Haaland broken fantasy football? Clearly not. He's a big Norwegian fraud. Nothing, absolutely nothing. Didn't even have a shot in the game. But the striker on the other side, who we've always said is the greatest striker ever, right? Especially Oscar. He's never said that Spurs should get rid of him or that he's got no legs or anything like that.
I've never said busted flush. Absolutely not.
No, one Harold Kane getting his 200th Premier League goal for the Spurs and his 267th for Tottenham in total, taking him past Jimmy Greaves' record to now be the highest scoring Tottenham player of all time. That's pretty bloody impressive.
Yeah, now just to clarify, I'm not going to be a disingenuous Arsenal fan and say it was a little bit tin pot of Tottenham to have him on the pitch giving a speech afterwards in a win that effectively helped their massive rivals towards the title. I'm not going to be
absolutely
like that.
Hate that. Ian will hate that. And if he came even remotely close to doing a lap of honour, Adam, Ian will be right there with you.
I'm going to rise above that sort of pettiness and say
the low bar Stimpson sets.
Yeah, it is quite remarkable in a way to watch a player have this kind of remarkable achievement, and we've all watched his entire senior career effectively from absolute obscurity. I mean, Spurs fans were saying, how on earth is he even in the Premier League squad? He had failed loans at sort of Leicester, Norwich and Millwall.
Oh, he'd been on the bench for that classic Championship playoff final.
Yeah, exactly. He was being kept out of the side at Leicester by Chris Wood.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's right.
And to see him now sort of smashing 30 goals a season pretty regularly, and he could feasibly break Alan Shearer's sort of all-time scoring record. I think that's not out of the question if he stays at Spurs for another sort of 2 or 3 years. So, it's quite impressive to watch that kind of career arc to see where he is now.
Yeah, I think especially off the back of all of what we've had in the last couple of years of whether he should go or that kind of thing, and also the conversation you can have where it's, are trophies the sole kind of indicator of success for a player, considering what low percentage of players actually are playing for the teams that win titles and that kind of stuff. But yeah,
well, that's the problem with
and
Luke from the Football Ramblers mentioned this before. It's not an individual game, is it? It's a team game. Harry Kane plays for a team that happens to have not won trophies recently, but fucking hell, I mean, if you're looking at individual plaudits, then number of goals is absolutely insane, and he's doing what a lot of older players do now and changing his game. And he's still so incredibly important to Tottenham. You get a lot of teams that will not be afraid to rotate anyone, but Tottenham never rotate Kane because he's so integral to how they play.
That has been to his detriment, really. I think
potentially, yeah, yeah. I mean, we've obviously talked about his injury issues before, and that could be the case. Maybe if he had have gone to a team like Man City earlier on in his career, maybe he might, I don't know, still be the quicker poacher he was back in the day instead of sitting as deep as he is now. But I just think he's adapting his game, and I thought I didn't like all the stuff with over the summer with him flirting with Man City and then it all going wrong. It all just looked to. It wasn't a great look for anyone, was it? It wasn't a great look for Harry. It wasn't a great look for his brother. It wasn't a great look for Tottenham or anyone really.
Charlie Kane.
Yeah, I mean,
agent extraordinaire.
Yeah, make those deals a bit more watertight to how you want them, mate, and then you'll be fine. Because it was very much like, oh, I'm going to force a move to Man City. Check the contract. No, you can't. Oh, right, okay, I'll probably just stay here then. And try and do the same thing with Son and Kulusevski as I've done. But anyway, I'm digressing massively. What an amazing achievement, and like you say, Adam, it's actually, I hadn't thought about that before, but yeah, we have seen his career practically from start to finish, and that's been quite something actually. So and just not even mentioning his England achievements, So yeah, it's an incredible achievement for
not even mentioning his England achievements because there aren't any.
Oh wow!
He's won even less trophies for England than he's won with Tottenham.
Are we forgetting the Fair Play Award, gentlemen? Come on.
Yes we are.
No, we are. Okay, good.
No, I'm not. We are not counting. We are disregarding
Jose
completely.
Jose would count.
Jose Mourinho. Just to round this off because, fuck it, Tottenham outperformed them by 0.1 XG. Congratulations. Antonio Conte was missing. He had to have some fairly serious surgery, I believe, on something called cholecystitis, I think, which is to do with your gallbladder. So he's going to be out for a while. So we wish you a very speedy recovery.
He's had a hell of a year. Fucking hell.
Screaming on the sidelines as well. Yeah, big year. So,
that's where we want him. Yeah,
back. Sister Act 2, back in the habit. Sean Dyche. Dyche. If you weren't sure, guys, we're still in rapid fire news.
Yeah, sure.
That's still happening.
We're on the 5th rapid.
Dyche has joined Everton in probably one of the most predictable moves in world football. And they done a bloody win against some team called Arsenal. Where are they? They're like top of the league, aren't they? How did they lose to Everton? And I'm going to throw this one to Ian.
Sure you are.
I did.
Yeah. Well, I will, like a brilliant squash player, just send it back against the wall to Adam. Adam, how did you lose that game? Yeah,
How
squash.
did you lose that fucking game?
Oh, dear, I'm still asking myself the same question. I think it was all set up to be a kind of very horrible match.
Oh, it was a setup. Oh, here we go. Are we talking about the Premier League script?
Yeah, we are indeed.
Actually, Adam, let me just stop you. So when Sean Dyche was appointed before this game, did you have genuine worries before the game? Like, as in, did you think, shit, We're going to have new manager bounce. He's going to be able to organise them quickly. He's going to he's worked with some of the players before.
He stuck to what he knew, and it was Sean Dyche, and the goal was scored by James Tarkowski and assisted by Dwight McNeil. It was the most Burnley of Burnley goals, except for the fact that they outperformed on XG 1.7 to 0.9. So something's happened here. Even though we slag off Everton, this is probably the best squad overperforming Sean Dyche has ever had. So I'm really scared. We should all be scared.
I just want to know from Adam, an Arsenal fan, because obviously Dyche was appointed before this game. Did he have worries before the game, or did he think that's still just Everton? That's all.
I was thinking, the problem is I looked at it as Dyche managing Burnley. I was thinking Arsenal had a relatively okay record against Burnley, despite the kind of sort of new Stoke kind of tag that a lot of people gave to them. So I was thinking it will be a much tougher game than it would have been against Frank Lampard's Everton, but I mean, that's not really saying much. And I was sort of thinking a comfortable win might become a close win or even a draw. I kind of wasn't ruling it out, but no, I wasn't. I don't think I was expecting the kind of uplift in the mood that was so clear amongst the players and the supporters to be matched in a really accomplished tactical on the pitch performance. I thought, because like Chuck says, reading out the XG, this wasn't a smash and grab. This wasn't Everton putting 10 men behind the ball, having one chance and sort of nicking it in the 90th minute. They pretty comfortably deserved to win. They were much better than Arsenal, who just didn't really show up. I think they created a couple of chances, but even those were individual moments from Saka and Nketiah. Other than that, it was a really deserved victory by, I almost called them Burnley, by Everton.
It's just natural, mate. Don't worry, it's understandable.
You have to get used to it.
Yeah, it was a sort of classic Dyche performance in that it involved a lot of running, but I think that's exactly what they needed to do. They were always going to have to be up and at it for this to play this Arsenal team. But
is that why you got them doing the bleep test in freezing weather? He was just like straight away bleep test.
I love it. That's such good shit. Honestly, just you can imagine a bunch of Premier League players having to do what fucking secondary school students do when they're doing PE lessons or whatever. Just sit. Have we not moved beyond the bleep test? Yeah, all right, we've got to do it because I want my fucking first team place. So yeah, fine. But like, it was, yeah. I mean, that does epitomise old Dyche, doesn't it? But the team performed fucking well, and Match of the Day had some stats about their running, and you'd always it was mentioned you'd always expect that for a first game under a new manager, but they pressed really well. They did not let Arsenal have much time on the ball at all, and well, I say they didn't have much time. Arsenal dominated the possession, but it wasn't comfortable possession. And that's what Arsenal need, isn't it? That's what Arsenal have always needed. They need comfortable possession. They need a little bit of time to figure out where they're going to recycle the ball to. And they certainly did not get that this time. And it was really impressive. I don't think it will last forever. I think Everton will still be struggling this season, but I think they couldn't have appointed a better manager, and this was a hell of a start.
Yeah, I agree, and I think what you said about this is the best squad Dyche has had, for obviously compared to the Burnley squad he had. Even if you just look at the midfielders, when you've got people like Onana and Doucouré, they don't just have that kind of energy that all Sean Dyche midfielders need, but they're quite technically accomplished as well.
There's a creativity there that is definitely wasn't present at Burnley.
Especially Onana, like he has that really, really impressive combination of the control on the ball.
Big man,
he's very composed. He is, though. I hate to be a cliche, but he's very composed in tight spaces, and when you're a team like Everton, who might at times need to sort of soak up a bit of pressure from what, let's face it, a better team. Having a strong player who can sort of fend off the opposition physically, but can also navigate out of those tight spaces it's so invaluable. It's almost a little bit like a bit of a cheat code at times. So I think I think Everton will still be down there, like you say, Ian. But you sort of make them maybe not favourites to get out of the relegation zone, but you'd give them a decent chance.
It's a good place to segue because that win against Arsenal gave them a 16% bump to avoid relegation. They went from 68% to 52%.
Wow.
One win. Southampton were equal with them on 68. They're down to 69, and Bournemouth are 76. Above that, you've got Wolves, Nottingham Forest 24, Leeds on 23, West Ham and Leicester on 12 and 11, and Palace on 8. I still maintain that Palace number is going to go way up over the next few games. But anyway, that's a huge impact straight away, and you know it's compact down there. There's not much separating people, and.
Well, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, I feel like I'm almost ready to write off Southampton at this point.
Oh, God, yeah.
I don't know if we're going to sort of touch upon them in the run of play later. Or
we can now if you
later.
want. Have yourself a segue. Go on. News. Nathan Jones is insane.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. Not only is their form pretty awful, their manager is... I mean, he's lost it. He's like... He's talking about how his previous side, sort of in the Football League, were up there with the best in the world.
Luton Town. Yep.
It's odd.
Before that, Forest Green Rovers. Yep.
For a man with such kind of little on his footballing resume at the top level, he's remarkably confident in his own ability, and at the same time blaming everyone else.
Getting an eccentric hipster, innit? Get an eccentric hipster in, try and pretend you're Brighton, like Southampton did. I mean, I don't know. I think I am worried a bit. I said right at the beginning of the season, I said I saw a lot of parallels between Southampton this year and Palace the year before because they had to buy a hell of a lot of players. They bought very young. They were changing up a lot of stuff. And now it seems like, they've on top of that, they've got rid of their manager. They signed a few more players in January, including a 6'7" striker, which looking forward to him getting on the end of James Ward-Prowse crosses. Seriously,
a 6'7" striker. That striker they then played in a reserve game the week before their last Premier League fixture, and they did the same with Bella Kotchop, who was in the World Cup squad for Germany.
Yeah, I think they might be good to go. It's fucking mad, isn't it?
Yeah. If they have to change their manager as well at the same time as, I mean, I didn't want to segue too far, but I am going to mention
give you my segue. You
dirty Leeds. Go on then. Yeah. Don't lean too far. Oh, you've fallen off. I think I probably would fall off a segue. Jesse Marsh, Yank Lampard is gone.
Yank Lampard, that's awful.
I mean, it really is bad.
Is terrible.
Yeah, he's nowhere near as bad as Frank Lampard. Leeds on 18 points, like we said before, 23% for relegated. In terms of actual kind of underlying numbers, not that bad. But I think it had just come to a point where he didn't have the credit in the bank that his predecessor did, Bielsa. And just pulled the trigger.
You're right. He didn't have that credit in the bank, and Bielsa's credit was you would have thought almost unlimited. But obviously, managers clubs always do this to managers. See Leicester doing it to Ranieri. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, it's a results business, isn't it? But while it is ultimately a results business, Leeds have. Look, we just took the piss out of Nathan Jones for XG talk. Leeds have outperformed their last 4 opponents in XG. They've just not won the fucking games. And it's not been that bad, has it? No. I mean, it's just this just seems like it's a January thing. You get that they're 17th. They see Everton get Dyche, and they worry that they're going to get dragged in. And I get it, but I really quite like Jesse Marsh, and I think he could have done something at that club, but he's had a lot of issues that haven't all been down to him, and some have been down to him because we've talked about his over emotional reactions on the sideline. I don't think always help his club. Sometimes that does help, doesn't it? I mean, let's talk about Arteta, and I think a lot of his stuff is performative, and it's done to get the fans going, and it's done to get the players going, or whatever. Jesse Marsch, I think, tries to do that, but it doesn't always come off quite well, and he'll just get sent off, or he'll do a post match where he says something sort of ridiculous, and you know, whatever. But I think he's similar to Bielsa in that he's so locked into what he wants to do, and it's just not quite come off. He's just not quite had Bamford fit, and he's just not quite had the players he's needed. And I feel a bit bad for him, if I'm honest. I think he could have done something at Leeds, and I don't know where they're going to go managerially now. I assume they've got a plan, but I don't know for sure that they have a plan. I don't know. I must admit, I don't know a lot about Leeds and the hierarchy and how the club's run. You know, if this was something like Brentford, you'd be like, I'm sure they're all right. I'm sure they know what they're doing. I don't know about anything about Leeds and their ownership or anything, but I hope they've got a plan, because we've gone from Bielsa to Marsch, and then when it hasn't worked out straight away. Now, I understand, because they had that very good first season in the Premier League, and it's not been like that since. But expectations have got to be managed, just because, you know, a lot of teams have come up and had a very good first season, and then sometimes it falls back, and you've just got to try and establish yourself as a Premier League club above those bottom three. And I think Marsch could have done it, and I feel a bit bad for him, I must admit.
Yeah, I sort of agree, and I think my overriding emotion is one of, it feels weird to say, but pity for Marsch, because he came into such a difficult environment. Like you say, the expectation, not just from that first season in terms of results in the Premier League, but also the kind of cult of personality that Bielsa had built up amongst the Leeds fans. And I think sort of in that initial season, Premier League fans in general, meant that as soon as Bielsa went, Marsch came in, and he was sort of tagged with the Ted Lasso kind of, or who's this American, the stereotype that Americans don't really do well managerially in general. And he's had less than a year in charge, and he's been sacked just after a January window where he's brought in sort of, I think, 3 or 4 more players. And it just seems, I feel sorry for him. Like you said, they're underperforming their underlying metrics. I think they're probably about mid-table on expected points. And it just feels like a bad time to do it. It feels like a really bad time to do it. And
if they haven't got a plan, then and I don't know what their plan is. I don't know. I haven't heard any rumours about
at the minute, the betting
at.
odds favourite is Carlos Corberán, who's currently at West Brom in the Championship and fighting for promotion. So I think it'd be a bit weird, and then for him to leave, and then after that, naturally Bielsa, then Pochettino, Hassan Huttl.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
You know, a few weird ones, but I think he parachuted into a situation that was really, really down. I think the Bielsa thing was crashing and burning everywhere, and he came in and somehow managed to get Leeds to stay up last year. And then from that situation, lost Rafinha, lost Calvin Phillips. They obviously did get a lot of money, but you know, you spend that, you spend around him with the RB Leipzig players who are all unproven in the league, and yes, incredibly attacking and exciting prospects, players like Tyler Adams, Mark Roker, Brendan Aronson, and it's just, it seems weird, considering how a month ago, you know, they just beaten Liverpool and beat Bournemouth in an absolute cracker. Since then, only 3 points out of 7 games, 3 draws, but you look at the teams they've played. I mean, Tottenham, Man City, Newcastle, West Ham, Villa, Brentford and Forest, probably a few more points, but then their next games, they've got Man United back-to-back, Everton, Southampton, Chelsea, Brighton, Wolves, Arsenal. I don't think a new manager comes in and gets any different points out of that.
Nails it, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, did you see Bamford's comments as well after the game? I really thought he threw Marsch under the bus a little bit. Which was, Bamford said, we needed more runners running past me to drag Forest centre-backs out of position and create a bit more space. The whole game was literally 2v1, which made it difficult, and unfortunately I couldn't find the answers to solve that.
Shut up, you stupid, pompous, injury-prone prick. You had one season where you were all right, and here you are being fucking tactical Larry. Fuck off.
But proper, like, I that might not sound like a lot, but like I read those comments and was like, wow, that's really. I don't know whether he'd got wind that something was coming, like, you know, lose this game and it's done, which maybe anyone could have thought, you know, Leeds not doing well and playing Forest. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, I think players bear some responsibility. Yes, of course, there's a tactical setup, but if if you're just banging your head against a brick wall, then you know, you maybe need to come up with something yourself on the pitch. But like, it was just I thought he really threw him under the bus with those comments, and like I say, maybe he knew what was coming, so he knew there was going to be no consequences. But yeah, I think Leeds is a bit of a coin flip now, I think, for whether they stay up or not, because I think it very much depends who they get in. You know, I know it sounds very British middle-aged of me, but Dyche is already gone. There's not two Dyches, you know. So
Dyche.
Oh, there is another Dyche. Yeah, of course there is. Yeah, that's annoying. I think he might have been out the loop a bit long. So I'm not sure what he could do at Leeds. So I do fear for Leeds now, and I think it's a shame because when I was a kid, it was dirty Leeds and no one liked Leeds, and then I think we all fell in love with Leeds in their sort of journey up from League One and that. So it would be a shame to see them go down, but I think they're in danger now. I think they're in danger.
Yeah, we liked them for about half a season, and then they went shit. So
it was only half a season, wasn't it? Yeah.
Speaking of shit and half a season, I don't know, transition. Chelsea, we're not going to talk about Chelsea, but Oscar sent a voicemail.
Hey y'all, it's Oscar here, checking in from Chelsea Island. So we're a total banter club. That deadline day was insane. But thank you, Dyche, for staying, I guess, by accident, but whatever. But the Chelsea-Fulham game is in stoppage time. It's about to end. And we looked bad, but hey, Sterling is back, and Reece is back, and Chile is back, and the new guy looked good. I like Enzo. Very exciting times. I'd love a 4-3-3 for the season. So I guess I'm in a good mood, ? Anyway, thanks, bye.
There we go. Yeah, you didn't say you were doing a good job this week, Adam, but never mind.
That's because he listened to last week.
He was too jealous about the quiz, that was it. Chelsea didn't win after spending the GDP of a small Caribbean nation in the transfer window. They outspent in January La Liga, Serie A, Bundesliga and Liga combined. So there you go. 1 point, Fulham at home. Palace lost. Casemiro got a red card. Oh well.
You literally have skimmed past that Chelsea game like that. Okay, no, that's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine. It was very dull, but I mean, yeah, imagine spending that much money and then watching that. Yeah, okay, no, that's absolutely fine. That's, I just
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't see
Palace.
I didn't see. No, not Ost. I didn't see Wolves against Liverpool. But if you're going to concede 3 goals to Wolves, should you be the manager and the club that is completely under the firing line?
And if one of those goals is going to involve Ruben Neves, who's not exactly mobile, his pace isn't one of the first things I think of. Sort of having the freedom of Liverpool to sort of do what he wants in Liverpool's half.
Did he score from outside the box?
I don't think he did.
Well, there you go. Automatic relegation. If you let Ruben Neves score from inside the box, you should be relegated.
But I mean, and also, they were sort of being run around by João Moutinho as well. And I'm pretty sure he's 47. I haven't checked
all evidence points to that. Yeah.
They were in an old off with James Milner.
all Milner is good for at this stage. It was weird. Liverpool are quite bad. A hot take, I know. And Klopp is also... Managers in this league appear to be in a bit of a spiral. If we're sort of criticising Nathan Jones for his weird comments. Klopp, do you see the press conference where he refused to answer a question from one of the journalists?
James Pearce, who has been writes for The Athletic and has been rightfully scathing of Liverpool recently, because there's no other way to talk about Liverpool at the minute with their league position. Awful. Absolutely awful. They're 10th. You know, this is not where Liverpool should be, and it gets a perfectly reasonable question about their mentality and how they come out to start games, and Klopp says, "I'm not answering that question from you after the things you've wrote." And like, if someone else wants to ask that question, I'll answer it. I mean,
well done.
Well,
so petty.
It's really petty, and obviously,
Tom Petty.
me and you, Chuck, have always enjoyed the fact that Jurgen Klopp,
German Holloway,
when he loses, becomes the German Holloway. This is what he does, and this is. You can't get so fucking pathetic. I mean, honestly, if you want to dig the players out, because that is, I think, where most of the fucking blame lies. I don't even think most of the blame lies.
I think he has started to actually just say, like, they're just not performing good enough. And I think that's right. You know, again, I didn't see the game, but you look at the highlights and the pressing is all over the shop. And I mean, granted, they've got players coming back from longer term injuries, and the only place they improved, they bought players was up front with Darwin Núñez and Cody Gakpo. The midfield is non-existent, as much as we kind of laugh at Chelsea for their situation. I think it's far more to level that criticism at Liverpool. But I mean, he has said previously he just doesn't recognise his team, and I think that's right. And it's just mad.
The defenders are like statues. Just no one's. Well, actually, not just the defenders. All of them are. You mentioned Gakpo just joined the club. You think would be out to impress? Just looked pedestrian, completely pedestrian. And it continues to confound me, to be honest, that Liverpool can be quite this bad. I understand that they've had, they had quite a busy season last season. Yes, we've all heard about how they had a lot of games, and I totally understand that. But it doesn't explain this. It was a good, actually, talking about The Athletic before with James Pearce, he wrote an article that had a stat that since the World Cup, Liverpool's top scorer is Leicester City's Wout Faes. When he scored those 2 own goals in one game, he's their top scorer.
Well, it's interesting because I know and I'll give him credit in his absence because I'm sure he's shouting at his sort of listening device of choice right now. But Oscar had been calling this Liverpool drop-off.
iPod Shuffle, it's an iPod Shuffle.
His iPod Shuffle, his gramophone. He'd been calling this drop-off for a while with that classic age curve comment that he would always ring out. And I think you're mostly seeing it now in the midfield as opposed to the forward line. You're looking at the likes of Henderson, Fabinho and Thiago to be the spine of your team. And they're all sort of either heading towards 30 or past 30. And I just don't know if they're athletically capable of...
I think Fabinho's okay. I think, and I read an article about this where if you look at his underlying numbers, in terms of what he's doing, he hasn't actually changed. He's still performing at a high enough level. But when you're having to do the job of 2-3 people, because Henderson isn't necessarily up to it, although he does give other qualities in terms of quote unquote being a manager on the pitch, you also can't have someone where they're only really going to do the same thing, which is try to go just inside the fullback and then play a terrible outswinging cross in from the corner of the box. That's just what Henderson tries to do. You'll see it 10 times a game. And Milner just being run into the ground and about to be offered an extra year, like, okay, you can't be in the position as someone competing in the league to be relying on that player. You know, I say the same with some of the Palace players, that there are people you can have in the squad and you can bring them on at certain points to make impacts in games, 15, 20, 25 minutes at a time, fine. But when you're relying on these people to start, and it's just not happening. Van Dijk has been absolutely crap. All the defenders, again, they've had injuries, of course they have, but every club does, so you can't use that as a crutch. Everyone that's come in has just not performed. Trent Alexander-Arnold has reverted massively after having a season where he looked defensively competent in terms of he's not getting forward, I didn't think, when he was playing as much. And then when he is back, is a defensive liability. You know, there's a difference between teams playing into the space behind him. There's a difference between teams playing into the space behind him and him just not physically being able to stop anything from happening, or just meandering or anything. And it's, Salah's drop off is immense. I do really wonder then if it's because the out and out threat that Mane posed on the other side just stopped people from being able to double up on him and negate what he's doing. But yeah, it's night and day.
And Darwin Núñez has come in and he looks lively. He brings a bit of chaos to proceedings, but he's lacking that composure massively. He seems to snatch at chances far too often. And I know a lot of people will cite his XG is very good. And whilst that is sort of half of the job of a striker, the other half is putting it in the net. And not to be kind of pointing out the obvious, but he's not doing that regularly enough. And I think he doesn't bring enough composure on the ball and help build up enough to sort of mitigate the fact that he's just keeps on missing chances.
Yeah, he's the third most underperforming player. He's goals minus XG. He's underperforming by 3.1, which, to only score 5 after more than half a season.
Yeah, that is significant. Yeah, I mean, the overperformance of XG is what pushes teams like beyond what they are. Where I know he's not doing it at the minute, but Son's always been an overperformer of XG, and it's why it's part of the reason Tottenham have been up there and there or thereabouts for the last few seasons. And I think it's telling that now Son is not banging them in with regularity, that Tottenham are struggling, albeit they beat obviously Man City this week, which you must have enjoyed, Adam. But it's Núñez has not done what Klopp would have wanted him to do, not done what FSG would have wanted him to do. This club seems at a pretty severe crossroads that has come to a head much quicker than I thought it would, because you're right, Adam, Oscar's been talking about this age curve for a while, but this has come to a head really fucking quickly with Mane going and Diaz, who's been injured. Firmino had a decent start to the season, like way more decent than anyone would have expected, and then got injured himself. Núñez headbutts people sometimes, and so it's been a weird one for Liverpool, and the stuff behind the scenes doesn't sound great. FSG saying we might sell some of the club or all of the club. Who knows?
Trying to get a sale and no one's coming forward.
no one's biting.
We didn't want to sell the club anyway, so
exactly. Yeah, no, we just got rid of all of the data people, and our director of football's leaving, and I mean everything sounds a bit iffy. Klopp's been there 7 years now. It feels very crossroadsy. 8, okay, fine, and it all feels a bit crossroadsy, and I'm a bit. I'm not worried because I'm not a Liverpool supporter.
The only person around Liverpool I think that is in this season with any credit in the bank is Alisson. I think because of him, it's not a lot worse, and you finally got to see, because Liverpool are poor, that he's actually what he can do as a goalkeeper. For post-shot XG per 90, he's the second highest performing goalkeeper this season.
Is that right?
Behind Kepa.
Oh, wow.
Behind Kepa, who's first, and there's about a 7.5 game difference in there. So that's big. That's a position that you'd normally see. You look at third and fourth. You've got Neto, Bernd Leno. Teams for Bournemouth and Fulham that are going to see a lot of shots, and the keeper's going to need to save them. And you've got Alisson who's saving more. It's. I think he's the only one who's coming out with credit in the bank.
And that is remarkable to say when you consider last season. There was a very real chance that they were going to win 4 trophies. People were talking about it, and it wasn't sort of ludicrous to suggest that. And that was probably maybe this time last year, and sort of we're a year later, and people are talking about maybe Klopp should go. And like you say, Ian, how quickly it has come to a head is quite remarkable, really.
Anyway, football stuff happened, and there was other football stuff that was available. Midweek games, double game weeks coming up. He's played the music: West Ham, Chelsea, Arsenal, Brentford, Crystal Palace, Brighton, Fulham, Nottingham Forest, Leicester, Spurs, Southampton, Wolves, Bournemouth, Newcastle, Leeds, Man United, Man City, Aston Villa. Double game week: Liverpool, Everton, Arsenal, Man City. Say goodbye, Adam P.
Goodbye.
Say goodbye, Mr. Ian of Stimson.
Goodbye.
Thanks as ever to our producers, Mark, Jeff, Andy, Tom, others, Nate. Oh, I don't have it written down. Bye.
See, you always have a go at me for not playing the music quick enough. You sound like you're wrapping up. I hit the music and then I nearly stopped it. It all went wrong.
Oh, dear.